Ahara, nutriment. Obvious. Anything cooked with lemongrass. Anything sprinkled with fresh coriander. Anything for which an essential ingredient is dew. Also raspberries or arugula. Anything that sets your mouth on fire. Anything that cools it. Anything you didn't cook yourself. Then young leaves from dandelions, broken through crusted snow. How you crave bitter after all that cold. Skinned stems of lotus flowers, sliced paper thin, sprinkled with vinegar. Also bread from ovens sunk in the earth. Ground nuts roasted in sand. Flaming custards. The lazy suspension of cooled coconut water. Fundamental. A lover enfolding you as he sleeps. The belly ballast of a young child. That child's abandoned collapse in your arms. How the body remembers from that moment on, when it bends to gather anything at all. Flowers, firewood, the child himself grown beyond your height. The territory of one glass too many. Your wildness. The body inhabited by music, the vocal cords resonating in a small room full of women, each singing only one note. How a friend can embrace you, bring forth all you have held, and love you anyway. How everything, finally, is reduced to arms, and your willingness to extend or be received by them. Difficult. Silence. How you have dreamed the fathomless eyes of your teacher. How you have had to learn there has never been a moment in which you were not forgiven. How this means you must learn to walk all over again without the counterbalance of your misery every single day. How this means that sometimes now you can hear the beauty of a crow, feel tenderness for all that must collapse, your body, your memory, and above all, your delicately wrought plan to escape from here unscathed. Checklist. 1. Regarding biology. Do your fingers deny what the mind has decided and check themselves 100 times within the chamber of the hands, not to reach for the collar of his shirt, the soft dissolve of skin at the edge of his brow? Is there no touch that is casual, that does not send a riot of signals through the endocrine, reducing you to chemistry, matter as conveyance of fluid and electricity, matter as desire? A, always. B, sometimes. C, never. 2. Regarding speech. Must the act of speaking become an act of gentle avoidance, a means of self-protection before your own desire? Do you find yourself articulating the circumference of a buried city, but never the city itself, all that dust, the shards out of which you have only just willed your body to form, and for him? Do you choose words that paint the temple walls in falu and ochre, paint fish swimming from a crevasse far from the sea, so the buried city, beautiful only in his imagination, does not rise, its rubble, its debris, in the wind he inadvertently unleashed by the gesture, only the gesture of his hand? A, always. B, sometimes. C, never. 3. Regarding gravity. Is your goodness in question, that smug fortress? Did you wake one morning to discover all your most precious signifiers had adapted to a new landscape, grown feathers where a foot had been, teeth in places that had never been carnivorous? Has mustn't become please? Did the fundamental laws of physics shift so that you could no longer be certain the earth would rise, however subtly, to meet you when you fall? Did you fall anyway? A, always. B, sometimes. C, never. First child leaves home. It has just been a matter of learning to breathe differently, from the fingers in, say, of calibrating the ventricles to accept this shift in oxygen without your breath in it. It has just been a matter of eroding the body's memory, its leaning, a morning's first kiss. There has been some considerable explaining to the arms, which are slow to grasp the parameters of absence. When you fail to turn in your bed, the feet, tentative in this larger silence, navigate stairs. The hands do what is necessary to heat water, steep flowers. The throat remembers to swallow. Someday, the body will not be thick with this new language. It will invert what should be inverted. It will negate what should be negated. Someday, the body will not confuse its subject and object. It will decline and agree without forethought. This is not the first time the body has woken as a foreigner because of you. Once the night was perfectly still, perfectly cold. Once I saw you take in your first breath and was transformed. From selected excerpts from the Atlas of Desire. 3. 6 ways to sublimate the rain. 1. Describe the field in spring, its exhausted hay, its fallen vetch, frost heaving up stones bigger than your head, cakes of iced snow, owl pellets, weasel skulls, all things that will be green, clenched in fists. 2. Describe the bitter of fresh dandelion leaf, tannin in those fiddleheads you forgot to soak, the velvet sun of nasturtium on your tongue, disappointment when there was no revelation of violet in the candied violets, green wood in an unripe pear, earth of onions, garlic, cumin, how you know loam should taste when it sits fragrant and humid in your cupped hands. 3. Describe the velar murmur of the cat, mouthful of sparrow, rivulets of thaw purling beneath the soil, the sharp crack of air hundreds of feet above jay, when a raven lost the current's edge and flapped once in perfect Arctic silence, the insect pitch of spring peepers, the excruciating patter of rain against lake skin from the perspective of a trout. 4. Describe the weight of your child's sleeping head, its radiating heat. How, eyes closed, you thought that silk was water on your arm. Soft-skinned boulders beneath your numbed feet, navigating the river too early in spring. The feathery reach of tamarack against your cheek, his hand drawing your face to him. 5. Describe the smell of iron a tomato releases when snapped from its stem in late August. The iron in melting snow, in freshly turned earth, on the birthbed of your children. Or the sweet flora behind their necks before they drank in anything other than you. 6. Admit there is no rain, just your desire, blunt like a stone and blind. One meaning of to bear is carry. One meaning is to yield. Second story. What to do about the son who clings, remembers when night falls how Achilles in that movie leapt into the air, found his challenger's throat and sliced it open. Or that ogre 2 movies ago that rose from the slime full-born and inviolable. Or the one, what about, with the man who had sharpened blades of steel instead of teeth. He says they are all outside his second-story window, in the middle of our land, which rises and falls like the breath of some sleepy, ruminating mammal. Close your eyes, I tell him, Imagine our home in daylight, the ducks in the pond, the smell of hay in the sun. Listen to how the forest sings back the peeper's chorus. Sometimes, he whispers, I am even afraid to breathe. And what makes us safe? And what makes a home? And what lies beneath the monsters that would consume him without my protection, despite the noise of my pages turning, my water drunk volubly from just across the hall? A week ago, I walked the floodplains of my childhood, again swatting clouds of insects, sucking my feet out of silt, meandering through gullies of cool air that held the same sudden surprise as springs in a pond or lake, trusting my body to remember its way through red pine, maidenhair, violet, buttercup, dogwood, Indian pipe, to the bank of the lazy river, where I had found refuge from the ache of home by immersion in the muddy chatter of that place. At dusk, I discovered that failing light transformed everything into scrub and muck, the path into 1,000 unknown paths. I am grateful my body learned so well to intuit escape, but for my son, I wish it could recognize home, and then the way there. 39. When I was 6, I planned to marry Jack Pluckett, of the dark hair and rosy cheeks. We would have 5 children, 2 boys, 3 girls. At 13, I knew I would grow up to teach 8th grade English and marry Paul Crawford, who would teach shop in a larger version of himself. At 16, my future turned to Butch Meyer, a rangy, pimple-faced swimmer with an overbite I couldn't get enough of in the sharp grass of Lake Michigan dunes, Saturday nights after enough strohs to make me bold, though he wouldn't talk to me in the light of day. At 18, I imagined a new life and thought that meant not kissing boys, destiny being more complicated than I had imagined. Clearly lacking cachet, at 20 I moved to Paris, but Ernest and Zelda, Gertrude and James were gone, and the only boy who wanted to kiss me drove a bus despite his parents, worked hard to smell of petrol and Stella Artois. It would appear I never quite had a plan beyond certain adoration, contentment, and later, just maybe, a cultivated smattering of fame, which is perhaps why I never imagined myself at 39, fighting my disappearance into wife, mother, teacher, common nouns with voracious appetites and poor digestion. Je suis comblée. It never occurred to me I would have to gestate my life again, that the angst of adolescence could return, that I could step up to the mirror on a cold September morning, see clearly all that had come before, yet nothing of what lies ahead, the putty of which sits shapeless yet in the palm of my hand.